Have you ever wanted to establish a successful and tranquil settlement? A place where settlers can come for rest and respite from the harshness of the Commonwealth? Perhaps a place where the settlers don't have to worry about constant attacks from the wild animals of the world? Well then, this video is for you. Kind of. Also, please consider liking, subscribing, and or commenting or something, I guess. Yeah, I don't know. If you don't do that though, I'll throw ice cream at your windows or something. That being said, there are some improvements to be made where I intend to create this utopia. I intend to make said utopia at Sanctuary. I start by constructing a long highway that circles around the settlement borders before looping back around and leading to the bed area so that the settlers can get more exercise. Once that's done, I begin to also wall off the farming area of the settlement, making sure that all the food is isolated to this one spot so there's no confusion about where it's at. And after testing out a few ideas, I decided to go with this small corridor that has some of those spinning saw blade trap things that settlers have to go through in order to reach the food. This will help them develop skills that are necessary to surviving in the Commonwealth. Then I watch the saw blades work their magic as Mama Murphy attempts to go in. And she eventually does. Now she won't have to worry about that until she decides to leave. I also go around and replace some of the floors on that long-ass sky bridge with trapdoors, just to add a little more flavor. I find that Codsworth had managed to get himself stuck behind a Brahmin in one of the houses. Then I discover that rather than taking the long and arduous path I had made, the settlers would rather just teleport through the wall into their bed. I wonder why I hadn't thought of that earlier. Disappointed but undeterred, I begin creating a new path. Similar to the previous one, I make another small corridor, only this time I put a flamethrower that is activated by stepping on a pressure plate, and also some Tesla traps, and I make sure to test them out. And they indeed work. After that, I go back to the first one and set up even more saw traps. I'm pretty sure there's like 9 of them here now. And after sleeping in the communal sleeping area, I am awoken to the sound of settlers attempting to make their way over to their beds.
I'm busy.
Delightful. It seemed like they kept getting stuck on the Tesla traps, so I had to readjust the positioning a little bit. And it seemed to work just fine. I return to Nuka World since I still want to fight that one specific guy in the gauntlet, and the quest is triggered once I get there. Anyways, this isn't the guy I was hoping for. So I return to the Commonwealth and go to the castle in order to speak with Ronnie Shaw. In the underground area, I actually remember to check for mines, so surprisingly enough, I am not immediately blown up. That changes when I run into Sarge. Anyways, I take him out and realize that Ronnie Shaw did not follow me, so I have to go back out and collect her.
Good job.
I grab the Minutemen general armor while I'm there, get the schematics for the artillery, and build said artillery. Seems that my traps are being put to good use. I attempt to blow up the sleeping area in Sanctuary, but apparently it is too close to the artillery I had set up there. So I travel to Starlight Drive-In and set one up. While I'm there, I decide that it's a good use of time and resources to see how many gorilla statues I can place. Turns out not as much as I would have liked. After returning to Sanctuary, I find Mama Murphy using the gymnastics beam thing before promptly falling off and into the saw trap below. I once more attempt to launch artillery into the sleeping area here, but this time I am told that it is not allowed because it's in a friendly zone or something. So I take matters into my own hands and purchase the big boy from Arturo. While I'm waiting for nightfall, I put up some lights in the sleeping quarters so that the settlers don't get scared of the dark. Who wouldn't want to sleep here? I then only have to wait for the settlers to go to sleep. Anyways, once I finish with that, I go back to Nuka World in hopes that the Immoral Combat quest would trigger again, but no such luck. After returning to Sanctuary, I give Mama Murphy some jet and she asks me to make her a chair. I'm sure she'll love it. I find her sitting in the chair, which confused me as to how she got there since I had placed the trap door right in front of it. But maybe she just walked around the trap. And this frustrates me. And when I'm attempting to set up more decorations for Mama Murphy, I end up falling through the trapdoor. So I have to go back up the stairs to connect the generators to the saw things I had set up. At this point, I am not really sure what else I can do, so I go to Nordhagen Beach to set up some more water purifiers, but it turns out there isn't a whole lot of room left. I instead head down towards Fort Strong and deal with the super mutants there, which does not go well on my first try. After that, I get kinda distracted exploring random things I find floating in the water. I end up taking on quite a few rats due to this. Once I'm done exploring, I go back to Nuka World, but still no Immoral Combat yet. Though I try speaking to this guy who seems to be trying to find something in the water.
Got that bastard's dead.
Anyways, after returning to the Commonwealth, I find some raiders, but they are taken out pretty easily. Then I decide to progress the main quest line a little bit more, so I go talk to Ellie and start the quest to find Nick. And of course, I make sure to extort her for as many caps as possible.
Last chance. Put some real money on the table or we're done.
Okay, you win.
Before heading down into the subway, I take on Swan. Apparently the big boy does not do as much damage as I had hoped it would. The Triggermen in the subway are a bit tankier than I had anticipated, but they aren't too much trouble. I also finally make use of that sword from Oswald. After dealing with Dino and freeing Nick, the rest of the vault section goes very smooth. Of course, when I make it to Skinny Malone, I encourage violence.
Skinny's no good for you, Darla. You put a bullet in him, and I just might let you go.
Wow, you're a bad boy, ain't you?
But I end up blowing myself up multiple times in my attempts to use the big boy. In the end, I rely on some mines, but still get to do a little bit of damage with the big boy, so it's alright.
Big set of legs. Who's it? He's lighter or heavier with all those holes in him?
So when that's all dealt with, I go back to Diamond City to speak with Nick about finding Sean.
Good question.
Then I meet with the mayor to get the key to Kellogg's house.
My son.
Anyways, we explore Kellogg's house and begin tracking him down with dog meat. Nothing really significant happens on the way to Fort Hagen, so there isn't much to talk about. That being said, the inside of Fort Hagen is considerably more difficult than I would have anticipated. There is even a point where I almost get myself stuck in a quick save death loop. But I managed to get out thanks to the use of Jet. I try to use the big boy on Kellogg, but he tanks the 2 mini nukes that it fires, and as such, the first try does not go very well. Anyways, once that's all wrapped up, I head back to Sanctuary to drop off some stuff and, once more, return to Nuka World in hopes that the Immoral Combat would trigger. It did not. Next, I thought I might as well complete a side quest, so I started the Museum of Witchcraft. Along the way, I run into a Deathclaw, but dispatch it pretty easily. I also run into some Enclave soldiers, but quickly get decimated by them, so I decide to run away. Soon enough, I make it to the Museum of Witchcraft and go in. What a bunch of losers, am I right? Getting taken out by a single Deathclaw could not be me. Yeah, totally could not be me at all. So once I'm done there, I grab the egg and begin making my way to return it because I'm a good person. Along the way, I find a new settlement, but I don't really do anything with it, at least for the time being. Before long, I arrive at the nest and place the egg down. Rather than immediately leaving, I decide to head back to Lynn Woods and summon the Deathclaws and watch as chaos ensued. Back at Sanctuary, there are some Yao Guai attacking, and one of them gets on the roof of one of the houses somehow. I also make something that sounded pretty fun. Mama Murphy receives some more drugs from me. I then spend some time in Diamond City doing some trading, as well as bantering with this one specific guard for a while.
Hey, officer.
Back at Sanctuary, I see that the trap had worked, so I set the Deathclaw loose on the settlers. Much to my disappointment, the settlers are actually able to take it down pretty easily. I go back to Diamond City in hopes of finding some Yao Guai meat in order to set up more Deathclaw cages. This is unsuccessful. I also happen upon Malcolm, who I tell the truth about his son.
I'm not sure. I don't always get the names of everyone I kill.
My son's death is a joke to you?
Then I get curious as to what would happen if I just killed the guy, and unsurprisingly, it did not end well for me. I find another Deathclaw lurking around Sanctuary, but it doesn't really pose much of a problem. I also make sure to fuel Mama Murphy's addiction even further.
It just makes everything feel good, don't it?
Then I discover that I too can use the exercise equipment. Not sure why the thought hadn't occurred to me before. The bench presses are being used by ghosts or something. Radiation sure can do some strange things. As one could expect, I returned to Nuka World in hopes that the immoral combat would trigger, and it did. Unfortunately, this is still not the guy I'd been hoping for. Anyways, I get kinda bored while waiting for the quest to trigger again, so I just kinda wander aimlessly around the Commonwealth for some time. I find myself fighting some raiders from the Mechanist DLC. Then I find this bunker, and I just let myself in. There isn't really much to note here except for this magazine. While I'm getting to the lower floors of this place, my exploration is interrupted by some synths. And then a Deathclaw falls down through the roof, so naturally I run away. But it turns out there were even more synths out in the hallway.
You must be terminated.
So, the next try, I make sure to take the Deathclaw on without trying to flee. Apparently there were even more synths throughout the building. Once I escape, I go back to Sanctuary and sleep for several consecutive days and nights before going back to Nuka World and hoping that the Immoral Combat quest would trigger again. And happy day, it did. Except this too is not the guy that I wanted to see. So I sit on a bench outside of Nuka World Transit Center for a couple of days and nights. Then I go back to Sanctuary to sleep for even longer. and no immoral combat. How disappointing. At this point, I'm not really sure what I want to do next since I lack the imagination to do anything interesting, so I just wander the Commonwealth and slaughter whatever stands in my way. While I'm out spreading kindness and happiness in the form of explosive bullets, I end up looting some Yaoguai meat off of a super mutant. The reason I mention this is because the Deathclaw cage at Sanctuary requires Yaoguai meat in order to be repaired. I'm sure you can understand why this was very exciting. Unfortunately, I am blown up shortly thereafter and do not get the Yaoguai meat after reloading. As such, I kill the super mutants in a depressive rage. Right outside the super mutant camp, I find this guy just casually levitating in the air. Pretty sure he's dead though. I travel through University Point while roaming around, where I find some synths who were a lot tankier than I would have expected. I also pull a bank heist while I'm here, although there isn't too much loot that's worth mentioning. Next I go to this place. I can't remember what it's called, but there are a lot of ghouls here. Oh yeah, there's also a settlement bench too, but I don't really do anything with it. I eventually return to Sanctuary to drop off some stuff when I am attacked by some wild creatures. Once they're dealt with, I go back to Nuka World for, you guessed it, immoral combat, and surprisingly, it actually triggered. This, however, is still not the guy that I'm looking for. Disappointed, I go back to Sanctuary again, and I make sure to give Mama Murphy her occasional drug.
Here. Go easy.
Wow. Forgot how strong that stuff is.
I realize now that I may have gotten slightly sidetracked from what the original goal of this video was, but I think that this settlement turned out alright. The one with the gorilla statues too, of course. Anyways, yeah, I guess that's it.